Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of the Willow Cove Crafts podcast, a podcast about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily, and you can find me on both Ravelry and Instagram as Willow Cove Crafts, all one word. Today is Thursday, December 9th. And I am coming to you from just outside of Madison in Verona, Wisconsin. I am recording a little early again this time around. So typically I record on Sundays and I try to put an episode up every other week, every 3 weeks if I have to. And this week I had a couple days off of work. I took off yesterday, today is Thursday, and then I'll be off tomorrow as well. I just had a couple vacation days to use up, so I decided to treat myself to a little staycation. And I was scheduled to podcast this weekend, and then I realized that Dan and I have a very packed schedule. It just would not have been possible to record this weekend, so it ended up working out quite nicely that I was off today and was able to put out an episode even though we've got a lot going on. I wanted to start off today by sending out a huge thank you to everyone who reached out after my last episode. If you did not watch episode 15, I talked about how I had some pretty scary health issues come up the week of Thanksgiving. And so many of you reached out to wish me well, offer your own experiences with similar things. It was really lovely to hear from everyone, and I want to assure you all that I am feeling so much better. For a little bit, I was feeling very fragile, I think is the word I would use. But I'm starting to feel a lot more like myself. I started working out again this week. I don't feel like I'm hyperventilating every time I take a flight of stairs. Things are really looking up. So I still have quite a few follow-up appointments. Most of them are in the early part of the new year. So for now, I just have to kind of sit back and continue to take my blood thinners and enjoy Christmas. And yeah, so since I last recorded, it was a little less than 2 weeks ago. We have not been up too much. We have been doing a lot of resting, which is what I need these days, which means I have a lot to show you today. Dan and I did go out to eat a couple times last weekend. I'll put some footage in at the end if I remember. Nothing too much. We just went and had a nice brunch and walked around. We have a really nice outdoor mall here in Madison, and Dan loves going to the mall at Christmas time. It's one of his favorite things. I don't know why. He really likes the way that the mall gets decorated at Christmas. I don't know, it's just his thing. So we like to go to the outdoor mall at Christmas time. So we walked around, did a little shopping, and then we had brunch at a restaurant that we really like at that mall. So I'll post a little footage, and then we also did a bit of walking around downtown. And yeah, that was about it. Other than that, it's just been lots and lots of crafty time for me. Looking ahead, we've got 2 Christmas parties this weekend. We're planning on going to a Christmas market. And then about 2 weeks from now is Christmas itself. So we will, Dan is going home for Christmas. I will be staying here, and we'll be doing Christmas with our respective families. But yeah, I think I will probably, obviously this is gonna go up before any of that happens. So next episode, there's gonna be a lot of little video clips and photos, I hope, of our Christmas festivities for me to share with you. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That is for a future episode. First up today, I wanted to show you what I am wearing. I have a very pretty wrap on today. I will take it off actually and show you. It's quite big, so it's gonna be really hard to show on the screen. But I will just kind of lean back and pull it along to show you. This is, I can't talk and show this huge thing at the same time. This is my Dust of Snow wrap by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. I knit this around this time last year. And I knit it out of the Stress Knits Advent Calendar from 2020. So there's 24 little mini skein samples in here, dyed up by Stacy of Stress Knits, who is one of my personal favorite independent dyers. I love her color sense. She does a really great job with these like super muted pastel and neutral colors. I think her aesthetic is really unmatched. I love what Stacy does. But anyways, the Dust of Snow wrap is intended to use up mini skeins. So that's what I did. And then you also hold it double with a strand of silk mohair. I used Shibui Silk Cloud in the ivory color. And it just makes this like perfectly ethereal looking item. I love it a lot. It's super warm, it's super soft. And yes, if you have never gotten a yarn advent calendar, I highly recommend it. I have gotten one the last 2 years, and then I decided that this year I was not going to get one, and I'll talk about this a little later with one of my new projects, but that was a mistake. I've been watching people open up their advents on Instagram, and I'm getting really jealous and wish that I had purchased an advent calendar this year. So anyways, highly recommend you give that a try if you've never done it. It's probably a little late this year, but you know, maybe next year. Treat yourself to an advent calendar. They're super fun. And the Dust of Snow wrap is written for those advent calendars, so recommend it. It was a super fun project, and you know, because you're changing your yarn so often, it, you know, really kept the momentum going. I think I knit on this pretty monogamously for a couple weeks, and then it was done, and it was really exciting and special to have a finished kind of Christmas themed wrap. Christmas, but not too Christmas. I'll show you one more time. And yeah, I'm gonna go try and put this thing back on, but yes, we will hop into some more knitting content here in a moment. This episode, I have 2 finished objects, which is really exciting because I feel like I have not finished something for a while. I started off the year really good in the sense that I was starting projects and actually finishing them and, you know, keeping my whips down to a small amount. And then towards the end of the year here, I have just been casting on all of the things and not finishing any of them. So to have 2 finished objects for a single episode is very exciting and will probably never happen again. But Anyways, my first one is the pair of socks that I have been knitting for my mom for Christmas. One last time, I used the Arnie and Carlos design line for Regia yarns. This is a 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon, and the color is 3760. And there's your label. And let me put that down. Here they are. There's two of them. There's a hair. Does anyone else's hair just like get everywhere when they're knitting? I feel like every single knitted object I've ever made must have many strands of my hair knitted into them. It's kind of gross, but it is what it is. Anyways, here is my finished pair of socks. And as luck would have it, I think they ended up matching pretty well. Not so much on the heel, but the rest of the sock matches up pretty nicely. So again, these are for my mom for Christmas. She really loves hand-knit socks, so I tried to make her a pair for Christmas every year. Typically, I like to knit her socks in pretty bright colors. She is kind of my polar opposite when it comes to color sense. I have talked about this before, but I love neutrals and very muted colors, and my mom really loves bright colors. So I have a whole stash of brightly colored sock yarn that is intended for her. But this year I wanted to knit her a more traditional Christmas pair of socks, and I really hope she loves them. I followed my standard sock recipe that I do for her. She likes her socks to have a little bit of a looser fit, so I do 72 stitches on a size 1 needle, that's US size 1, and I always do about 15 rounds of ribbing, go into the leg, a heel flap and gusset, and then I believe this is called a wedge toe. I'm not certain on that actually, so if this is called something other than a wedge toe, someone please correct me. Yes, I'm excited to gift these to her. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about these. Not much. I love looking at them. They're just, to me, the most quintessential Christmas socks I've ever seen. Not only are they red and green, but something about like Fair Isle makes me think of the holidays. So anyways, now I am rambling about these. So excited to have these finally done. I felt like I was working on them for a very long time. They were a slow moving project. So anyways, my second finished object this week is something I had started last episode and showed then, but I have since finished it up. This cute little bonnet is going to be a gift for my friend's new baby who was born in September. Yes, the pattern I used is called Baby Bear Bonnet by Knitting for Olive. And the yarn I used, I no longer have the label because this was scrap yarn, but it is Woolfolk Snow in the colorway 1 and 2. So I did talk about this a little last time, and I went and confirmed that Woolfolk Tined and Woolfolk Snow are actually the same base. Woolfolk Tined is a single flat color, and then Woolfolk Snow are the various shades of tined marled together. Both are a fingering weight, 100% wool. I don't have the tag anymore. I should have looked it up. I think it must be merino. It's very, very soft. But this, again, the colorway is 1 and 2, which means that it is color 1 and color 2 marled together. And they are very similar shades. You probably won't even be able to tell. But if you look closely, the yarn is a white and a very, very light gray marled together. And again, it's maybe the softest 100% wool I've ever felt. You can even see there's quite a bit of a halo on it. And yeah. This bonnet has some very interesting shaping. Typically, when you knit a bonnet, you will knit it flat and then you will join it in the round to do the crown decreasing. For this one, the whole thing is knit flat. You do not have to join in the round, which is very appealing to me. I kind of don't like when the bonnet gets to be in the round for whatever reason. But anyways, you accomplish the head shaping with some short rows that you can see there. So yeah, knitting the whole thing flat is really satisfying. It felt like it went very quickly. The only modification I made to that pattern is that it calls for a fingering weight held with a mohair. I have read a lot of things online that indicates that babies don't do too well with mohair. It makes a lot of sense. Mohair is very fluffy. It kind of flies off and it can get kind of into their mouths and they can't take it out. So I decided to omit the mohair, go down a needle size and knit up a size in the pattern. So I was really aiming for a 6-month size bonnet, but I knit the 9-month size with a smaller needle and it does seem a little big. I'll be curious if this fits her right away. Yeah. Luckily, the winters in Wisconsin are very long, so I have no doubt that if this doesn't fit her right now, she'll be able to wear it in a few months and it will still be quite cold out. So, yes. Again, this is the Baby Bear bonnet knit out of Woolfolk Snow, and I will be wrapping that up today and dropping it off at my friend's house on Saturday. And I am so excited to see the cute little baby wearing little bear ears. Why do we do that? Why do we put children in animal things? It's so cute. Can't explain it. The urge is so strong. My first work in progress today is a new cast on. Because I finished a pair of socks, I wanted to start a new pair. This one for me. And I decided to do something a little bit different for this pair of socks, just change things up a little bit. I have been watching a lot of Andrea Mowry's podcast on YouTube, which is called I'll Knit If I Want To. Especially as I've been getting into pattern designing, I have found her YouTube channel very inspiring. She typically keeps her projects pretty secretive, so her YouTube videos are her answering questions that people have submitted to her. But it is very nice to hear from her and to get her perspective on things as such a prolific knitwear designer. So I really encourage you to go watch that. But anyways, on one of the episodes I had watched over the last couple of weeks, she was talking about her DRK everyday sock pattern. And they looked super cozy. It's an all over ribbed sock pattern, and she was talking about how, you know, the ribbing really hugs your foot and makes for a well-fitting sock. The other thing that was pretty appealing to me is that it is a toe-up sock, which I have never tried before. I have been knitting socks for maybe about 8 years at this point, and every single pair I have ever made has been cuffed down. I am definitely a creature of habit, and so, you know, my first pair of socks was cuffed down, and so now all of my pairs of socks have been cuffed down, and I haven't really ventured into the world of toe-up socks. But her socks looked really cute and cozy, and so I thought, why not? Let's give a new pattern a try. The other thing that I was really inspired by is she had talked about knitting that sock pattern in some of her hand spun, which I am not a spinner. I don't think I will ever be a spinner. It just doesn't appeal to me as an activity. However, I do really love and appreciate the look of hand spun yarn. I think it's completely beautiful. So I wanted to knit her sock pattern, and I wanted to do it in something that looked kind of hand spun-esque. Again, I don't have any hand spun in my stash, but I did go looking and I found some yarn that, while it is not hand spun, it has kind of a similar look. And that is the Schoppel, I believe is how you say the company name, the Crazy Zauberball, which I believe this yarn is pretty popular. I have 2 balls of it in my stash, this being the first one. And the color I am using is 2092, which they actually name their colorways. This one, it's a German company, so I'm about to butcher this name, but it's Schokoladenseite. 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 I went and looked it up, and that word translates to chocolate side. And I thought to myself, that's interesting. I wonder if that means anything. And I guess the phrase chocolate side in German means like your good side. Like if you're taking a picture, you know, show them your good side. But their phrasing for that is show them your chocolate side. And in German, that is Schokoladenseite. So just a little fun fact for you today. This is a 75% virgin wool, 25% nylon sock yarn. And if you've never seen this sock yarn before, it's pretty fun. It is very aptly named when they call it Crazy Zauberball. This is how it comes. I did not wind this myself. It literally comes in this kind of, you know, crazily wound ball, and there's these really long color repeats that kind of fade into each other, and a lot of them have kind of a marled effect, which again, it's not hand spun, but I thought of all of the things in my stash, it was the closest to hand spun that I had. So I decided, like I said, to cast on the DRK everyday socks. And this is what I have so far. Again, it's a toe-up sock, so I started by casting on the toe. And I think part of my aversion to toe-up socks was that I thought it might look a little sloppy. But Andrea has you do a Turkish cast on, which I must say looks very neat and tidy. You can't even tell, you know, where the cast on was. It's pretty seamless. And then it is an all over 2x2 rib. I put it on a sock blocker so you can see it really stretched out. But yes, this is my sock so far. I've got maybe another inch to knit before I start the heel, and I'm really excited to do the heel, especially because I've never done a toe-up heel, and I'm curious to see what that construction looks like. And yeah, we're about to head into some more oranges. I really like the colors in this particular ball of yarn. They remind me of, you know, sitting by a cozy fire, which I think is very appropriate for this time of year. So these are, you know, what I'm considering my Christmas socks. They're not traditionally Christmas, but they do remind me of kind of a cozy winter's evening by the fire. So there you have it. This is my first sock. I am knitting it on size 1 and really enjoying it so far. I love watching the colors shift, and it is always exciting to try something new, especially when you are very set in your sock making ways like I am. My second work in progress this week is one that I have kind of shown before. I am still plugging away at my design project. I would say I'm about maybe halfway done. I think I'm ready to start writing the pattern. I've definitely hit the point where, you know, we're just following a pattern repeat. So now I'm just, you know, gonna finish out knitting it and see how big I end up wanting it to be. I tend to really like huge shawls, so I think any shawl design that I make now and in the future will be quite sizable. But anyways, as a reminder, I am knitting my sample out of Spincycle yarns. 2 different types of yarns that they offer. The first one is their dyed in the wool, which is a 100% American wool. This is the Cold Comfort colorway, which has always been one of my favorites. Again, I'm such a sucker for really light, pale colors. And I am pairing that with their Verses. This is the Slow and Steady colorway, and this is also 100% wool, but in their marled base. Yes, I was going to say, I do question, I really like this yarn. I think it works in this design because the marl is very subtle. But I do think if you use one of their more contrasty marl yarns, I do wonder if this particular stitch pattern might get a little lost. So something for me to consider when I'm recommending yarn for my pattern. I think this works really well, but maybe a solid would have been a better choice. Anyways, I have been showing little sneak peeks of this on my Instagram. So if you do not follow me on Instagram and you are interested in this, I highly recommend going over there and giving it a look. But for now, I'm just gonna show this kind of bunched up. It's quite a bit bigger than it was last episode. And you can see my pretty stitch pattern that I am using. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I keep taking pictures of it because I love how it looks, but I don't want to post too many of them because I don't want to bombard people with pictures of my unfinished shawl. But I'm really excited. I'm hoping to maybe finish the sample by end of year and then get this tech edited in January, and then probably put out a call for test knitters. I'm hoping by the end of January. So if you're interested in test knitting, if you really like brioche, be on the lookout for that. I'll probably again put that up on my Instagram. So if you're interested, go give me a follow over there so that you can be notified when that is ready. My last work in progress this week is also a new cast on. It's not really a cast on because it is crochet, but it is a new project. And it is one that I have wanted to start for some time. And I don't know, I think having scary health issues makes you, just go do the things that you want instead of waiting for the future when it's the right time. Anyways, I, for a very long time, have wanted to start a crochet granny stripe blanket. And I actually did start one quite a few years ago, and I now don't really love that project. Quite a few years ago, for me at least, I felt like there was this like huge increase in popularity for mini skeins. I felt like mini skeins were everywhere. Everyone was knitting with them. And I was like sucked into the joy of mini skeins, and I would buy mini skeins whenever I saw them, even if they weren't really my preferred color choice. So I started this crochet blanket, and it's got a lot of bright colors, a lot of neon, and that is just not my color preference. So I think one day I will finish that blanket and maybe give it to one of my sisters because they both are a bit more colorful than myself. But yeah, I have been wanting to start a new crochet blanket that is in more muted colors, goes a bit more with the aesthetic that I like. So, and then on top of that, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, it's December, it's yarn advent calendar season, and I have been watching people opening up their yarn advent calendars on Instagram. I didn't get one this year, and I've been feeling very sad about it. I really wanted some new mini skeins, and I really wanted to start this crochet project, and so what I decided to do was I went into my stash or my scrap bin, I should say, and I pulled out all of the scraps that kind of went with the color scheme I was aiming for. I want each of the scraps I put in there to be at least 20 to 25 grams is what I'm aiming for each color. So I went into my scrap bin, pulled out some scraps, weighed them, made sure that they were in that gram measurement, and I started my blanket. And this is where I am so far. It's more tapeworm than blanket at this point, but I think it is so very pretty. I will say, so it's very large. When I was doing my foundation chain, I held it up to my queen size quilt on my bed and kind of used that as measurement. So it should be about as wide as a queen size, which, you know, here's one end, and then here's my arm span and my other arm span. It's not a true arm span because I can't reach out here. There's a wall there. Anyways, it's about queen size width. And it's fun now. And I was expecting this because I've heard other people say this, but the kind of foundational row you do was a massive pain. You have to like chain all your stitches, and that is fine. And then you have to do a single crochet into that chain, and I struggled quite a bit. My chain was a little tight, and so like getting my hook in to do that row of single crochet it took hours. I think it took me 4 to 5 hours to just do that first row. But then after that, it's very smooth sailing. You just do clusters of 3. This is a free pattern, by the way. I'm using the Addict 24 directions for granny stripe blanket. But you do 3 clusters of double crochet into each of these like holes. And yes, I love it. And then I was so inspired by starting this blanket and seeing everyone open their advent calendars that I decided to go on Etsy and find some mini skeins that I could purchase. So some of them have not arrived yet. I bought a lot of mini skeins, but I'll kind of show you what I have so far. I was a little naughty and bought a lot of mini skeins. But like, here's a little sneak peek. And they're so pretty. These are in I never show my project bags. This is the Plystre Knitters bag. It's not the backpack. Plystre has a backpack, and then they have like a large knitting project bag. And this is the bag version. Kind of pricey, but I asked for this for my birthday one year, and my mom got it for me, which was very nice. But anyways, I have a lot of mini skeins just to show you a random sampling. And they're all in nice muted colors, the kind that I really like. And yeah. I'm really excited to add these into my blanket. I'm just gonna keep grabbing so you can see. There's a lot more in here, so you will see those as time goes on. But yes, I did not get an advent calendar this year, so I decided to collect my own. And yeah, this way, you know, I can at least control the colors a little bit. And then, you know, maybe by the time I work through those mini skeins, it will be next year and I can get an advent calendar. I really like the Stress Knits advent calendar. I've always really wanted the Sweet Sparrow advent calendar and the Woolberry advent calendar. Those are the 3 I have my eye on for next year. All 3 of those yarn dyers are amazing and have a very similar color aesthetic to me. So I'm confident that I would really like their product. So anyways, one more time, let me reach down and grab it. This is my new granny stripe blanket. Very addicting at this point. So yes. To close out today, I wanted to take a moment to answer one of your questions. As a reminder, I have recently opened up the Willow Cove Crafts podcast Ravelry group. And I have a couple threads over there. One of them is an Ask Me Anything thread. So if you have any questions for me, go on ahead over there and you can join that group and post in that thread. But I got one question this week from Beth, I believe is how you say your name. It's spelled B-E-T-H-E. So I'm not sure if it's Beth or Bethy. But anyways, she posted a lovely comment and some questions to me. So I will read that to you all, and then I will go ahead and answer her question. Hi, Emily. You are such a motivation to me and inspiration. You take on intensely large projects and knit so quickly. You are a joy to knit with. Thank you so much, Beth. I'm wondering a few things. Do you have a favorite item you prefer to knit for yourself? Hats, sweaters, etc. Also, are you a reader? If so, what are you reading lately? You mentioned that you might make tutorials, which I so hope you do. Your cadence, your vocabulary, your tone, I think you'd be an amazing, effective teacher. I sincerely think you are the only person who can teach me how to brioche. Please get well and stay well. Thank you so much. There was quite a few questions in there, so I will kind of go down the line and answer them. So do you have a favorite item you prefer to knit for yourself? The answer to that is definitely shawls. I am a sucker for neckwear. Dan always jokes that like, oh, you've started another shawl. Oh, what is that, a shawl? And like he'll just like always draw attention to the fact that I'm constantly knitting shawls when I don't have a ton of hand knit sweaters, I don't have a ton of hats, I don't have a ton of mittens, but I have a ton of shawls, and he's always joking that I should diversify my knits a little bit more. Which I do intend to, but shawls are the thing that I gravitate towards the most. I love to make them. They're, so fun and versatile. So shawls for sure. The next question was, are you a reader? If so, what are you reading lately? I used to be a big reader, and then I started obsessively knitting, and now I don't read as much. I try to read a little bit before bed each night, but I almost always end up falling asleep. I think it's become like a bit of a Pavlovian response where I start to read and immediately I get drowsy and often only get a few pages in before I start to doze off a little bit. Currently, I am reading. I'm rereading what is it called? The Magic of Tidying Up, or the Magical Art of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. It's a very popular book. I read it a couple of years ago and did like a massive clean of my apartment, and I am feeling like I am due for that again. So I'm rereading that book to get a little bit of inspiration, and then hopefully I will have the motivation to kind of do a deep organization and tidying of my apartment. But yes, typically my favorite type of book, I really love kind of a spooky thriller. Those kind of page turner books, those are my favorite. And then Beth's last question was about tutorials and whether or not I plan to make those in the future. I definitely do. I think my strategy is going to be to make tutorials that go along with the designs I release. So with my current design, I will likely do a brioche tutorial, and then I'll also do a tutorial for the specific stitch pattern that I am using. But yes, I do plan on making tutorials, and that was just such a nice thing to say, that you think I would be an effective teacher. My background is actually in teaching. I taught high school math for about 4 years. So, and I currently do a little bit of teaching at my job, for like new hires and things. I teach a couple classes. So it's very nice to hear that you think I would be effective. So again, if any of you have any questions, feel free to go post those on my Ravelry group. I'm hoping to start answering those at the end of my episodes as they come in. And I think that is everything for today. I feel like this might be a longer episode, so yeah, I had a lot to talk about today. I plan on recording again in 3 weeks. Typically, I like to do 2 weeks. However, 2 weekends from now is Christmas, so I will be busy with my family. So 3 weeks, I will tape and put up my next episode, and I believe that's actually going to be January 1st or 2nd, which is exciting. A fresh new year. I hope 2022 is better. I think we've all had a rough couple of years. So, since I won't be talking to you, have a very happy Christmas if you celebrate, and have a safe and fresh new year. I will talk to you in 2022. Thank you, everyone. Bye.